Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here and welcome back to Let's Play Civilization 6. We're playing as Mongolia, as Kublai Khan, and I decided that it would be more interesting if we decided to pivot towards a tourism victory. I've done a lot of tourism games, but this is going to be interesting for two main reasons. Normally, a tourism victory gets harder when you conquer people. But it also gets easier because you have more cities and you have more land. And tourism is primarily a victory that depends upon how good your land is and how many cities you have. But it's also going to be super interesting because I completely control this entire continent, which means I completely control all of the luxuries on this continent, which means I'll be able to get monopolies on all of these resources. And that'll give me a huge amount of tourism against the AI. And since I've killed everyone on this continent now, I think it's safe to go try to meet and start diplomacy with people on the other continent. I successfully fought off the emergency against me, but that's mainly due to the fact that I actually murdered everyone who was in the emergency against me. We got Dmitry Mendeleev, who will give me access to chemistry and a random tech from the industrial area. Let's go ahead and use him immediately. There's a boost for steam power and chemistry. Very nice. Time to meet what I assume is Macedon, and it is. Hello, it's an honor to meet you. I'd love to sample your hospitality. How do you feel about me? Negative first impression. Let's get an embassy as well as open borders. We'll make sure that we give him a little bit of cash for that deal. And now we're on to what I assume is the other continent. We can start to explore and do other stuff. Hey, I'm well ahead of him on science, so I'm not worried about him actually winning the game. Now, an important part of this next phase of the game is deciding how exactly I have to divvy up my land for things like national parks. So I have to look for opportunities like this where there's really, really good appeal in a nice area like this, or potentially places where there's room and I can improve the appeal. Like, for example, over in Hamilton, there's definitely a national park slotting in right here, and I've even got to work on a preserve. Economics is unlocked now, and we have access to corporations as well as Big Ben and stock exchanges, so pretty much we're fully online with regards to starting to crank out the great works from the industry. So let's go ahead and found a marble corporation right here, although I'm actually a little bit curious. Our current pressure against Alexander is 180% from the luxury resource modifier. That's pretty damn good. I'm wondering if the corporation thing will actually change it. So let's found a corporation. This will be Worldwide Marble United, and that's going to be such a nice tile for our capital to work. 6 food, 11 production, 3 gold, and 1 culture. We'll do the same thing over here for the Amber. We'll make an Amber corporation. This will be Uncle Dennis's Amber United. And then the exact same thing for the Jade down here. We'll make a corporation, and this will be King Jade Megacorp. Let's take suzerainty of Samarkand now, and they'll give me access to the trading dome. I'll probably want to choose a city that I set up as like an international trading hub to hit all of the city-states, and it might actually be Aksu, because I could use 4 of my trade routes over here and just like spam out trading domes in here. But if I'm really thinking about it, it would want to be a city that has like a good spread of luxury resources all around it that I turn into my trading city. And Ugarit has potential here. Oh, we found America. America can be a bit of a pain in the ass when you're going for a culture victory. But we also found Kumasi, and Kumasi's going to come in handy. Kumasi gives you extra culture and gold for every specialty district in an international trade route. So we'll probably want to make friends with them. Let's get an embassy with America and see if they'll also give me open borders. Open borders for that extra 25% tourism pressure. We've got 360% luxury resource monopoly modifiers now. We're only making about 100 tourism per turn baseline up here, but that's getting multiplied up to about 305 thanks to open borders and things like luxury resources. Nice. Lovely. There's industrialization, which gives all of our mines an extra +1 production, access to coal, and of course the coal power plant. Now that we have economics, I think our next move is probably in the direction of steel, so that we can get the Eiffel Tower for the extra appeal. Picking up flight could be good too, as well as chemistry for the extra science, so that we can push towards late game upgrades. And I might make good use of the biosphere this game, so maybe like getting research labs for 3 technologies is the right move here. Natural history is unlocked, which is going to give us access to the archaeologist, as well as the water park and a few other nice things like zoos. I'm going to want zoos in my empire. That extra amenity being AoE is super good. Let's take suzerainty of Kumasi here. It'll give me a little bit of era score, but more importantly, it'll give me extra vision on this continent, as well as access to the extra culture and gold from international trading. You can see here now in the capital, I'm getting 28 culture from outgoing trade routes, which is massive. Hey, there's Germany as well. We have met them. And that's another person who we can get a resident embassy with, as well as open borders. And I think now we only have one more person to meet for us to start generating tourists against them. All right, let's pop down this vampire castle at long last. Kaboom. And that is a total of 15 food, 19 production, and 1 science, all getting shifted over to the capital, which is now making a ridiculous 94 production per turn, with a food surplus of 51. Hey, we met the last player, and it's Spain. Nice to meet you, Spain. They're so far away. I'm kind of glad I decided not to go for a domination now, because, man, these guys are so ridiculously far away that it would have been a huge pain in the ass to try to conquer them all. The good news is nobody is super far ahead of me in technology or culture, so this should be a very competitive game. There's Filippo Brunelleschi. We'll use his wonder construction ability to maybe get ourselves the mausoleum, because a single charge of him should get it pretty quick. Although I don't have anywhere to build the mausoleum is the problem, except maybe up here in the northwest. Yeah, you know what? I could get the mausoleum somewhere here, like right there, and then I'll teleport him up here to insta-build it. I'd like to take that 20% faster population growth because I have 0 loyalty problems, so I'm going to heavily vote on that. It's basically like having the positive amenity buff in every single city, and we'll be able to get a huge population really fast. Unfortunately, Alexander took it away from us, but we do get the district's culture bomb, which is nice, I guess. Right, let's pop down the production into Mausoleum. We'll have that in 8 turns. We've got our very first archaeologist, and we have a ton of antiquity sites to explore. Like, just look, this entire continent's worth of antiquity sites. I am going to swing up here and grab these ones first. Let's refresh this vampire castle so that its yields are updated for the 2 new industries. I'll have to do it again when I get the corporation, but now it's making 27 production per turn here. Capital is cranking out 94.5 production. It's going to take me 9 turns to build Taj Mahal. Ooh, we got John Spilsbury. That's going to give me access to toys, which is another +4 amenities in my empire. The real question I got to ask myself, though, is this toys worth it, or do I want to use him to upgrade the truffles into a corporation? Man, I feel like toys are so good, but it is only 4 amenities. I mean, maybe it would be worth it to do the corporation, but I can always do the corporation later. It's not like time sensitive. Right, we got replaceable parts, which is going to give us access to the food market, as well as upgrading our farms to get +1 production, or +1 food from every adjacent farm. That means like farm setups we have here are really, really valuable, getting 7 food from this central farm. We've unlocked conservation, which gives us 3 envoys, tourism from walls, as well as the ability to get national parks through using the naturalist, and we can also build a sanctuary if we want, if we build a few groves. Otherwise, now that we have conservation, our tourism is going to jump up to about 229, and we can start looking into perhaps going for neighborhoods and pushing for the shopping mall to get the tourism gold and amenities from that. Found quite a few additional city-states like Cinguetti. Cinguetti gives you +1 faith for every follower of your religion. You're founded or majority. That would actually be really, really powerful in the capital, because the capital has a relatively big population. So that would be like 10 faith per trade route in the capital. So I think Cinguetti is going to be a big priority for me. And in order to get control of them, I may have to plug in some influence cards like Diplomatic League. That means when I put in a single one, I'll get +2. But it'll be a while before I can wrest control of them away from Spain. But I absolutely want to do that, because that's a ton of faith, which would really, really help me with my culture victory. One thing that's a little bit unfortunate is that Amber spawned as a continent resource and a sea resource, which means I can only see 16 of the controllable Ambers right now. And 4 of them are probably somewhere surrounding the other continent. Although I could be wrong about that. There are 20 of them in the world, so it's going to take me a while to get full control of the amber. The other really important thing that conservation does for me is it allows me to start planting down woods and improving the appeal of my tiles, as well as setting up for national parks. Lovely. There's the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. We mostly build this for the extra build charge on our great engineers, because this guy basically got to use his build charge for free now, and any future great engineers that I'm able to get my hands on will have a bonus charge as well, which will be super, super helpful. I mean, the yields on the water are pretty nice too, but that's not the main reason we build it. Just need 1 more truffle to get a complete monopoly on it, and it's actually over here. So I'll start moving this builder over to pick that up in the next few turns. Let's go ahead and get the next vampire upgrade. This will give us +1 vampire, which is mainly going to be used for the vampire castle. The other benefits don't really help us much. Need to find a nice spot for this vampire castle, and I reckon right here is pretty good. The only downside is I was really hoping to use this for national parks and stuff, so I'll have to find a nice spot where I already have a ton of mines and stuff like that, and maybe some strategics. Actually, Mato Tapila has some appeal here. I could slap it down like somewhere around here, grab up all this nice production from the coal. I've got 10 out of 11 copies of Jade, and when I pop this down, I will have a complete monopoly. And I actually even picked up an achievement here. The Top Hat and Monocle control 100% monopoly on a given luxury resource on a standard size map or larger. That's a pretty good achievement. That means my luxury resource multiplier is going to start climbing, and I'm actually picking up a ton of gold from my monopoly as well. 35 in total from all of my monopolies. Let's pop down our first national park. And the wonderful thing about national parks is they always give you a ton of era score. +4 from your very first one as well. So that's going to be a start of taking care of a lot of our amenity issues, because I believe each one of these gives you 5 amenities, 2 for the host city, and then 1 for each of the 4 closest cities to the national park. Not to mention just the raw baseline tourism that you get from having a couple of national parks in your empire. All right, let's use the last charge of Filippo now, and we're 2 turns away from grabbing the Forbidden City. Forbidden City is easily one of my favorite wonders, because you get the +1 wild card when you finish it. Lovely, there's Taj Mahal. This will give us +1 era score from historic moments, earned after this wonder is completed, if that moment is usually worth 2 or more era score. This is going to help us guarantee some really, really good late game golden ages. Plus, it just kind of naturally produces a little bit of passive tourism itself, which is always really helpful. I'm going to go for Hagia Sophia as well as the Kilwa Kisawani. So I'm going to park the Kilwa over here in the eastern side of my capital city. My capital is now going to be converted basically over to a wonder building city. I'm going to try and get as many of them as possible in here. +1 wildcard policy slot from the Forbidden City. And you know, I really enjoy sometimes, every now and again, like if I have a wonder that I really enjoy, I'll sit and actually watch the creation movie. There it is right there, lovely. But that extra wildcard policy slot means we can do some interesting stuff. Like for example, we could plug in invention now, without sacrificing anything to get extra great engineer points, and those great engineer points tend to be pretty valuable. I would like to plug in the 1 for extra great merchant points, but I'm waiting for the tier 2 one, and I believe that comes at capitalism. It's called laissez-faire. It gives you +2 great merchant points per turn for every bank, and +4 for every stock exchange, which is going to be, I'm going to have a lot of those things. I'm going to build a lot of stock exchanges this game. Although that depends on how quickly I win. I'm already steamrolling ahead because having full monopolies on luxury resources is incredibly powerful for your tourism game, which is why I wanted to show off just how easy it can be to transition from a military victory into a tourism victory with the new Monopolies game mode, which I think is really, really cool. It opens up a new game mode. I almost just completely knocked something off my desk right there. Let's just go ahead and move that a little bit further away from my arms. But yeah, let's also get to work on Big Ben. I don't know if I'll complete that in 29 turns, but I would really, really like the extra policy card from Big Ben too, as well as the massive boost to gold you can get out of it. Lovely. We have chemistry now, which is going to help us boost our science with the research lab, and we can also build mountain tunnels, which will help us move around. Getting urbanization is also quite nice, because we can plug in things like neighborhoods, and if we get Eiffel Tower, we can almost guarantee high appeal on our neighborhoods, which will make something like public transport really valuable. But now that I have chemistry, I think it is time to head for Eiffel Tower. I'll want that appeal boost if I can get it. It would also be really nice to pick up Cristo Redentor this game, so that I can get really powerful seaside resorts. And speaking of which, it's probably a good idea to pick up flight and radio first before I go for steel, actually. And here's the final copy of the truffles, which will max out a second monopoly for me, and I'm getting 50 gold from my monopolies now. Time for our second national park. Boop! Another 4 era score. Happy days. And I think that's normally only worth 3, but because I have Taj Mahal, it's actually worth 4, which is always welcome. And these national parks are really, really going to help with the amenity problem that I'm struggling through right now. If I go ahead and check my city status reports, The vast majority of my cities are either content, which means they have just barely enough amenities, or they're displeased, which means they're lacking at least one amenity. Looks like Oxford University failed in here, which does mean that I can one-turn a stock exchange at the very least. Right, let's nab suzerainty of Chinguetti. I'm making 139.5 faith right now, and when I flip this over, I'm making 241. That's just how powerful Chinguetti is. It's easily I would say it's easily the best city-state in the game for faith generation, because it scales off the number of people following your religion in a city, which means that it scales off your population, which is super powerful. All right, we got Kilwa. Kilwa is one of my favorite wonders in the entire game. It gives you +3 envoys when you get it, which is nice, but more importantly, when you're the suzerain of a city-state, it gives the city that Kilwa is in a 15% boost to the type of resource bonus provided by the city-state. That means if you're suzerain of a faith-based city-state, you get a 15% boost to your faith generation. If you're suzerain to 2 or more city-states of that type, you get a 15% boost across your empire. Since I'm suzerain of 2 economic city-states, that means I'm getting a 15% gold bonus in every single one of my cities, which really adds up. Pretty much jumped my income from 300 gold to 400. Hey, we found the Lycy Fjord. I have a cavalry unit basically just auto exploring this second continent to see if I can find things of interest. Flights unlocked so we can get aerodomes and stuff like that now. Not super useful, but we will net a tiny little bit of extra tourism from the few things that actually convert culture into tourism that we have. I don't think we have a huge amount of that stuff, but there's probably a little bit of tourism coming in from it, owing to the fact that we're currently generating about 300 base tourism. We've got about a 500% modifier from having extremely tight control on the luxuries of this continent. And the game reckons we're about 70 turns away from winning, but I think we could shave that down significantly. Cristo Redentor is unlocked with mass media, and now we have it, as well as a couple of governor titles. I'm going to go ahead and pick up capitalism for shopping malls, as well as laissez-faire. And market economy is going to be a nice thing to plug in too for that extra gold and culture and science. Slap in military research. We have a ton of Renaissance walls in our empire, and that +2 science per city is going to pay dividends. Right now we're making 260 science, and now we're up to 294. You gotta you gotta just play it carefully. You gotta know where you gotta build things, what you gotta build, and when, in order to maximize your tourism returns. We got the Hagia Sophia, which is going to be helpful because it gives our missionaries +1 spread charge. So we have a couple of cities that we haven't fully converted. Being able to do that a little bit more efficiently means we end up with more faiths to turn into things like national parks. Okay, let's recruit John Jacob Astor. Now, he will be used to create a truffle corporation. Let's grab Cristo Redentor. It's really nice because it prevents any reduction in your religious tourism, but it also gives you 100% tourism from seaside resorts. And because I own an entire continent, it means I have an entire continent's worth of coastline to actually use for seaside resorts. Pop in another national park up here in the north. Lovely. +4 era score as well, a ton of amenities over here. I want to surround this national park in woods, but then this city is essentially finished. I guess I could pick up a harbor in here for a little bit of extra, gold and stuff like that. But I don't really need any more improvements up here or anything like that either. Truffle Corporation acquired. Unity next. Truffles quality goods. That sounds like like a poorly translated. It sounds like a poorly translated corporation's name. Albert Einstein, very nice. +4 science from research labs. I don't have a lot of research labs, but that at the very least will give me the incentive that I need to do so. Because research labs are already worth about 11 science each right now for me, which would bring that up to 15. I'm going to call that the end of the episode though. I hope you guys enjoyed the little bit of pivoting to tourism we did here. We've got a lot of work still cut out for us. We have to make so many archaeologists. We still have to build a ton of theater squares. We need like a bajillion builders just to get this land improved. Like if I search for improvements Mongolia, you could see like my old land over here where I originally started is incredibly well improved. But as I start to move out to some of these conquered lands, there's only little dots of improved territory here and there, with the exception of places where I built like my vampire castle and stuff like that. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.